Okay, class, this is the last video for today. So part 3, we're still solving systems of equations. So we have now part 1 was solving by graphing. Part 2 was solving by substitution. And now this is a third way, solve by elimination. And so you'll see that the steps are here on a class kick. This is the second class kick that says elimination. And the first step is you want to line up your equations, meaning you want to have your x's on top of your x's, your y's on top of your y's, and your constants on the right side, and those also on top of each other. Okay? And so we're going to start with number 2, because number 2 is set up really nicely for elimination. And you'll see why in a minute. So I'm just going to rewrite these where they're on top of each other. So 3x plus 2y equals 22. And then the second problem I'm going to put right underneath 5x minus 2y equals 42. Okay, and the reason these are set up perfectly for elimination is because the goal is that you want one of the variables to be exactly the opposite, meaning the same number, but one's positive and one's negative. Okay, and so we'll see here that the y value is that already. So this is already set up really nice for elimination. So that's why I started with this one, because we have a positive 2y and then we have a minus 2y. They're complete opposite of each other. They're the same number, but opposite sign. And so this is how we're going to do it. We're going to set this up where they're directly on top of each other, and we're doing addition down, okay? And so what happens is we get 3x plus 5x, and so we get 8x here. And then remember, we can't start the problem until these are opposite, and these were already opposite. So we had 2y minus 2y. Well, that's 0. That was eliminated, okay? So that's actually gone, and we don't need to even write it down below because it's gone, okay? All right, then we continue on. We have an equal sign, and so then we have 22 plus 42, right? Which gives us 64. And so now I have 8x equals 64. Well, now I do some algebra, and I'm going to solve for x. Okay? So remember, those y's got eliminated. And so then now we have 64 divided by 8, and so x is equal to 8. Now remember, these answers are an ordered pair. So I do need to go back to one of the problems, and it doesn't matter which one, and I need to substitute x back in to solve for y. So I'm going to just use the top one. It doesn't matter which one, though. So it's 3x. But instead of x, I now know x is 8 plus 2y equals 22. Okay? And so we get 8 times 3. So we get 24 plus 2y equals 22. I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides. And so I get 2y is equal to negative 2. Divide both sides by 2. And so we see y is negative 1. Okay? So the final answer is always a coordinate point. So it's going to be 8, comma, negative 1. And that's your final answer by elimination. Okay? So let's try one more where it's not set up as nicely, like ready to go. And then we have to do a couple more steps to get it ready for elimination, okay? So let's try another one. Okay, we're gonna steal one from the class kick. So let's just take number 1. I think number 1's gonna be not too bad. So we're gonna just rewrite this. X plus 7y equals 17. And then x minus y equals negative 7. And so if I line those up, I've got x's on top of x's, y's on top of y's, and the constants on top of the constants on the right side. And then I'm looking to see, are the x's opposite? And the answer is no, right? This is a 1x and this is a 1x. They're exactly the same. They're not opposite. And so then we look at the y's. Are the y's opposite? And this one has a 7y and a negative 1y. So those are also not opposite. So we have to change one of these to be opposite, either the x or the y. And so it actually doesn't matter which one you decide to do. You'll get the same answer. So I'm going to say, since we did y's last time, I'm going to do x's this time. So one of those problems, I need x to be a negative 1, okay? And so I'm just going to do the bottom one. It doesn't matter which one I do, but I'm going to do the bottom one. So this whole problem, I'm going to multiply it by a negative 1. Because if I do that, that's going to change this x value to negative 1. And that's what I want. I want one of them to be negative, okay? And so what that's going to do is I'm going to have to distribute this, okay, to all three. So I get negative 1 times x. That gives me negative x. I have negative 1 times a negative y. That's not going to give me a positive y. And then a negative 1 times a negative 7. That now gives me a positive 7. Okay, so I multiplied the entire second equation by negative 1. And what that did is I'm going to now ignore this middle one. And you'll see my x's are now opposite. I have an x and I have a minus x. And that was to do elimination. One of them has to be eliminated. Okay, so let's see what happens now that we combine them down. So we're going to add them down. So we have x minus x. So that goes away. That's just 0. We have 7y plus y. So that's 8y. And then over here, my constants, I have 17 plus 7. And so I get 24. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 8. And so y equals 3. Remember, this is not the final answer. We need to get the x value. So you can plug it into one of the originals, okay? It's the originals that you want to go back. So I'm going to plug it into the first one up top. So if I plug it back into this top one right here, okay, I have x plus 7y. But instead of y, I now know y is 3. Equals 17. Okay, so I get x plus 21 equals 17. Okay, because 7 times 3. And then I'm going to subtract that 21 from both sides. And so I have x equals, I have a positive 17 minus 21. So that gives me a negative 4. And so x is negative 4. So my final answer is written as a coordinate point. So it would be negative 4, comma 3. And that would be my final answer. Okay, and so that's elimination when you have to kind of change it a little bit and make it kind of how you want it. And I want to just be clear, this negative 1 that we multiplied the whole problem by, that doesn't have to be a negative 1. It can be any number you want. As long as you're doing it to all 3 terms, it's okay. So it could have been, if we needed it to be, it could have been a 5. It could have been a negative 3. Okay, so that number that you multiply all 3 by, you get to choose what that is to help you eliminate one of the variables. Okay, we'll be doing some more of this next week, but I did want to just do some extra videos for you guys. Have a great and safe weekend, all right? Talk to you later.